So I reached out to Rahul earlier this month, requesting him to take one more session for us. So it gives us extreme happiness to have Rahul here. Rahul, thank you for doing this.
Most welcome, and good evening to everyone. On the
Good evening, Mr. Rahul.
yeah, I don't have to say Mister, ma'am. No Mister here.
No, it's just a gesture of respect.
Yes, yes, definitely.
We have to give that side respect. You can leave. Thank you. Yeah. So, Vibha, should we start? Yeah. So I think I've shared
Sir,
my.
sound is very low.
Whose sound is low? Is my sound low?
Yes, sir.
Is it low for everyone?
I can actually hear.
No,
Jagdeep sir, can you increase the volume of your device?
What?
Increase the volume of your laptop or
I have
phone.
done it. I've already increased my volume.
Okay. And are you on hands-free or are you on speaker?
Is it okay now? Is it better? I'm trying
Yeah.
to speak.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So you can see my screen though, right? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes,
Fully, not fully.
Not fully. Okay.
it's half.
No. Yeah, it's yeah.
Let me-
Now
It's okay.
now it's good.
Let me present it again and let's see if it comes fully. Now it's full.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All perfect. So again, thank you everybody. Thank you, Vibha. Thank you everyone at Sukoon for very happy to have this opportunity to speak to as many senior citizens as possible. Just a quick introduction. My name is Rahul. I'm the founder of a startup called GreyUp, and what we do is we try to help senior citizens across a few verticals that they find generally difficult, complex, and a little tricky with agents, etc. One of the things that we work with is work on is health insurance for them. Most senior citizens, like one of sir, as you were mentioning, either find it very difficult to get a policy given your pre-existing illnesses, etc., or even if you have a policy that too for many years and you finally use the policy one fine day, you end up first realizing the many problems with your policy at the payment desks of the hospitals, right? Where they'll say this is not covered, that is not covered, and then you really feel quite frustrated. And so hence this session should help you with the tools to A, understand how to take a new policy if you haven't, or B, if you have a policy, it'll help you really, it'll give you the tools to understand your policy better and be able to roughly understand how much coverage you'll get, whether the policy is good, bad, or maybe ugly, and what can be done to correct the situation going forward if you see some gaps in your policy. Okay. Everything that we speak today, of course, is relevant to a policy for anybody. However, our focus has been as a company and even in this session is on senior citizens because of course, a health trauma can happen to anybody at any age. However, if you look at it for senior citizens, unfortunately, what happens for most seniors is usually one of some organ in the body usually starts failing first. For some people, it's the heart, someone the kidney, maybe the lung, maybe the liver, maybe the knee. And so that leads to a chronic illness, and that chronic illness leads to multiple hospitalizations, which is usually very different from how a younger person would maybe use their policy. So this higher incidence of illness, the higher costs, because these illnesses usually are more chronic, the treatments also cost higher, and senior citizens also have limited income. That's the biggest problem here. So a bad policy or no policy can suddenly lead them to a huge erosion of their wealth that they would otherwise have thought will last their entire lifetimes. This is personally, to me, I find this quite unacceptable that people then have to struggle in those last few decades of their life. But the good news here is that all this is easily preventable with some timely action, and the word timely is very critical there. And hopefully that is also something you can take away from today's session. This session will cover all kinds of seniors. All of you may be following in different of these groups, whether you have bought a policy yourself for you and your family, or you're covered by your child's corporate plan, or if you've got a policy through other sources, an alumni association, a bank, or something like that, or even if you don't have insurance cover. I am quite confident that all of you will have something to take away today from this session. Okay. So to just understand the root cause of the problem, right? The first question that most people ask me is, why are health insurance policies in India so complicated? Why can't be a very simple thing? I take a cover for 5 lakhs, I get a bill of say 3 lakhs, and I just get 3 lakhs back. And if you actually go look at the root cause of that, the root cause of that is actually this thing called medical inflation. Okay, so don't get too scared with this slightly technical looking slide, but basically all of us know what inflation is, right? General inflation in India is about 5 to 6%, depending on where you read the news. But medical inflation, that is anything to do with medical costs, is actually, you'll be surprised to know, it is at 14%. It increases by 14% every year in India. And this is about that means it's 2.5 times faster the prices increase than normal, maybe the tomatoes that you buy, or the our fuel, or maybe anything else, or the restaurant bills that we are used to paying, right? So compared to anything else out there, this grows by 2.5 times faster. Now there are multiple reasons for this, and just to, before I get into the reasons, what does 2.5 what does what does 14% increase year on year mean? It basically means that in 5 years, slightly over 5 years, the costs of everything is doubling. So for those who can do a little math, you can say something is 100 rupees today, you increase 14%, 14%, 14%, 14%, you keep increasing, you will see that suddenly it crosses 200 after the fifth year. So which means today, if there is a surgery which is about 6 lakh rupees, in another 5 years, around 2029, 2030, it will be 12 lakh rupees. And another 5 years, it will be closer to 20 lakh rupees. And this is something that most people don't realize, because it's not like it's our job to track the costs at hospitals for different illnesses. Okay. And there are many reasons for this. I think three key reasons. I mean, there's basically rising costs, which is basically coming from normal inflation, but there's also the demand for healthcare in India has gone up. We have unfortunately been one of the slightly more affected countries during COVID-19. And so there's a lot more preventive care demand. People are actually going to hospitals now, taking their health a little more seriously, getting things tested, treated much faster. The other thing is the lifestyle changes. So all of you know that our economy opened up in 1991, right? And after 1991, all the Pepsis and the pizzas and all that we started consuming maybe in the late 90s, I think now it's 20, 25 years later. Unfortunately, we are seeing the effects of all that on our health. Okay. We are unfortunately the diabetes capital of the world. Nothing proud about that. But we are soon to become one of the top 5 countries in cholesterol, in blood pressure, high blood pressure, and lots of these things. But I mean, the intention of all this is not to scare you, but was mainly to let you know that these are some of the reasons why why there's a surge in demand. And lastly, yeah, I don't know where most of you all from, but if you go to most top hospitals in most cities, you will be surprised to see the number of foreigners there. So in spite of all this 14% rise year on year, it is still much, much cheaper than it is abroad. So for example, if you look at a bypass surgery, heart bypass surgery, even today, is 1 by 40, not 1 by 4, 1 by 40th the price that it is in the US. Okay. So we may be feeling the pinch year on year, but for people abroad, we are an English speaking country. We have fantastic doctors. We have fantastic treatment and technology. So it's a no brainer for many people to come to India and get treated. Okay. So moving forward. So that's one thing. So one thing to realize is health costs are increasing by 14%. So what does that mean for each of us? So that means that anything to do with the medical industry, whether it is the medicines that we buy, whether it's any kind of medical equipment, of course, in the context of this conversation, of course, hospitalization costs or any costs for caregivers, nurses, etc. All this is going up by, on an average, 14% every year. That means doubling every 5 years. Now, the question many of you may be wondering is, Rahul, how can it be 14%? Because why am I not feeling it? And the reason why you may not be feeling it specifically is because most of our relationship with this industry on a day-to-day basis is medicines. Okay. Go to the pharmacy, buy a medicine, come back. And now typically if a strip of medicine costs, say, 150 rupees today, and after 6-7 months, if it's 171 rupees, I don't think any of us feel the pinch of that. Okay. But actually the inflation is there, and you would only feel the pinch if you unfortunately have to experience one of these bigger ticket items, which is primarily hospitalization. So that's point number one. Point number two is, what is the other impact of this on each of us here? Is that health insurance premiums, right, will obviously rise as well. Correct? The costs for everything will rise, but health insurance premiums will also rise. And why will it rise? Because what is health insurance? So just a quick summary, right? Health insurance is a risk transfer tool. So whatever risk you have, financial risk you have because of treatments, future treatments, you are passing on that risk to somebody else by paying a fixed amount of money or some amount of money year on year. Okay. So when you are, so that person who's taking the risk of your expense, if those expenses are going up by 14% every year, he will also increase the prices, maybe not 14%, but he also will find it hard and have to raise premiums. But this is where the problem and the conundrum is there for these insurance companies. See, this insurance is a very low penetrated thing in India. Not even, we are in single digits actually, if you look at people who have health insurance. So there's a vast open market, and all these companies want to compete with each other. They actually do not want to increase these premiums if they can. But unfortunately, they're getting that pressure from the bottom because the prices for everything, the costs of everything related to what they have to cover in the hospital is increasing. So what do? So what is their response to this? They don't want to increase the premium, but the prices are going up. So then what happens is, instead of being able to give one single plan with all good features, not a single bad feature, they cannot do that because they have to do trade-offs, right? Because if they give all good features in one plan, then the cost of the premium will be maybe 1 lakh per year or 1.5 lakhs per year. But they can't do that and they don't want to do that. So instead of doing that, because they want to keep the premiums affordable to people, they will make these variants of these different policies. So each company you will see has 10, 12 variants. And most of those variants, you will see that there are some things that are good and some things that are not so good. Now, the point is we need to understand, are we taking the right one for us, where the good is very good for us, and, and the bad is not really that bad for us from a personal perspective. Okay. So see, this is the reason why insurance is because they have to keep the price low and they cannot give this one superhero plan with everything positive. And unfortunately, this is also a very agent-driven business. The documents are also written in legal with legal-like jargon, and that is why it is very, very difficult for anybody, and even more so for people here. So to understand now what exactly can go wrong with your policy, let's look at this example. So here's an example, okay, of a typical, one second. Yeah. In this example, I've taken this typical example. Okay. So let's see what can go wrong. So this is a person who has an insurance policy of 15 lakh rupees. Okay. And this is the approximate bill. So I'll just go through the bill very quickly. So the person was in hospital for 7 days. The room rent was 10,000 per day. So 70,000 per day. Out of the 7 days, 3 days, he was also in ICU. So 20,000 per day, 60K. Surgery was about 2 lakhs. Tests, etc. were 1.5 lakh. Medicines was about 80,000. Doctor's visits, doctor comes every day in the morning and in the evening, right? So 2 visits a day, 14 visits the doctor has done. And each visit is 3,000 rupees for the doctor. So this comes to a bill of about just 6 lakh rupees. Compared to the cover that the person has, this should be a clear open and shut case because the bill is not even half of the cover, right? So it's not even 7.5 lakhs. He has a nice cover of 15 lakhs, which looks great. So you go to so this person goes to the insurance company and says, hey, I just got operated and I'm better now. And here are my bills. And, here's my policy of 15 lakhs. So please cover me. So first thing the person will say, sir, that's fine. But, there's a couple of things I want to share with you. The first thing is this room rent. So you have taken a room of 10, which is 10,000 rupees per day. And actually, if you look at your policy, there is actually a capping for the room rent in your policy for 5,000 rupees per day. So you're like, really? I never knew there was a capping. He said, yes, sir, you can go and see the policy. It's written very clearly. Said, but my agent didn't tell me, sir, that I'm not sure, but it's definitely there. And this is what the policy covers. So you're like, okay, no problem. If you can't pay me 10,000, okay, fine. What is the capping? 5,000. So you pay me 5,000 per day. For 7 days, you pay me 35,000. That's okay. And we think that, okay, at least the room was good. It was comfortable. Our family was, on all the family members who came to support me was comfortable. And you feel good about that. But then, and you say that, okay, you cut 35,000. I'll pay from my pocket. No, not a big deal. And you give me 5,67,000. And then he'll say, so one more thing, that is the, ICU charges also. ICU charges here is 20,000. So actually in your policy, there is 10,000 rupees per day ICU cover, ICU capping. So this is this is a typical thing in most hospitals. Just don't let everyone know. Whatever is your room rent charge, double that charge is your ICU charge. And that's there in most hospitals, in all hospitals almost. And the same thing happens in the insurance also. So insurance, if they cover if the room coverage is 5,000, then they will say that your ICU coverage is also double. So now what happens? So now out of this 10,000, they covered 5,000. Out of the 20,000, they covered 10,000. So now basically they will give you, out of these 60,000, which is for 3 days, they'll give you 30,000. So now it's getting a little more tricky. And you're telling them that, and he's telling you, and as per your calculations, now you have to pay 65,000 from your pocket. And the balance, hoping to get the balance 5,37,000 from the company. Okay, clear so far? I hope it's clear so far. Okay. So now, if you forget everything that I tell you in this entire session, please remember the next point that I'm telling you, which is one of the most critical hidden clauses in most policies. In fact, in all policies. Okay. So now when you go back and tell him that, okay, I'm ready to do this, he will tell you the next point. And the next point is, there is actually a clause in all policies. Don't have to read it. You'll get even more confused. It's called proportionate deduction. Okay. And I'll just explain to you what it is. Okay. So what proportionate deduction means is, whatever percentage of your room rent every day, whatever your room rent is, whatever percentage of that the insurance company covers, everything else in the bill other than medicines will be covered in that same percentage. Is this clear? Okay. So whatever percentage of the daily room rent the insurance company covers, everything else in the bill other than medicines, which IRDA says has to be on MRP, so that's fine. But every other line item in a bill will be covered in the same percentage as your room rent is being covered. Okay. So now going back to our example, now because our room rent is covered 50%, suddenly this whole equation changes. So the surgery also then will be covered 50% because of this proportionate deduction. The tests that I did for 1,20,000 is covered 50%, and doctor's visits are also covered 50%. Okay. Medicines are untouched, luckily. So that is on MRP. So now the grand total that this person gets, even though he had a 15 lakh cover, out of the 6 lakh bill is slightly more than 3 lakh rupees. Okay. And all this because of these two clauses. One is room rent ka capping, and one is actually everything is room rent ka capping almost, directly or indirectly. Okay. And then you're ready to get this 3,31,000. You're already quite upset. And the last step is just one more thing. Your plan also has 20% co-payment. So when you took the plan, you agreed that you will pay 20% of my part. Whatever my part, insurer's part is there, you had agreed that you would pay 20%. Some people take 10%, some people take 30%. So now the final, and this is actually the final. So you will remove 20% from this, what they have to give. That also will go from your pocket. And finally, around 2,65,000 this person gets from this bill of 6 lakh with this cover of 15 lakhs. Okay. There is a typical, which is basically 44% of the bill actually you ended up getting, in spite of having more than double the amount of cover. And this is a very common term in insurance called out of pocket expenditure, OOPE. And that in this case, in this example, is about 56% from your pocket. So the
Rahul,
claim settlement.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
Yeah.
Just checking in if people are able to understand the pace, or do we need to slow
Yeah,
it down once?
exactly. Actually, Rahul, what you mentioned just now, things like co-payment, if you could just go through that once again. I mean, how does that uh, come into the uh, explanation?
Sure, no problem. I'll do that. Okay. So basically, we'll go back a couple of steps. So when you buy a plan, when you buy a insurance plan,
Yeah.
there are two ways you can buy it. So on one way is there is no co-payment, which means that the insurance company is taking 100% of the burden of that bill.
Oh, I see.
Okay. And then that will have a certain premium. Just an example. Let's say the premium is 30,000 rupees. But they'll tell you at that time that if you can take some of the burden, maybe 10% or 20% of the burden of each bill, every time a bill comes, I will give you a discount. So
Okay.
instead of paying
Understood.
30,000, I'll give you
Right.
a 10% discount, right? Now to save that 2-3,000 rupees, many people end up taking this with a co-payment.
Right.
Okay. So, and how co-payment works is that whatever is the insurer's part to pay in that bill, at the last step, when they're about to pay, now comes the co-payment. Okay, the last step. So they were
Understood.
supposed to,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So
Great.
sorry about that.
No,
I'll
no,
go a
no.
little slow. Okay. I was
No
may not
problem.
have. Yeah.
Unless
So
anybody else, I
so
don't.
in that last
Nobody else
step,
is going
instead of getting sure, but anytime you can tell me if I'm going fast or not.
Yeah, yeah, sure,
And
sure.
we also have all these discussions at the end as well. I'm happy to take you through again. So basically, this person in this example had 20%, hence 66% again from their part you had to pay.
Mm.
And this is what it is. Okay. So now this claim
Sir,
coverage from
excuse me.
100%, what you,
Sir, excuse me. I am Jagdeep
yeah.
Sharma. I am a fellow in life insurance, developer health insurance, having experience of 38 years in marketing of health and life insurance. I just wanted to what you are telling. Is it as per the IRDA health regulations 2015?
Sir, I'm not aware. I'm looking at each policy. I'm looking at what is in the policy
Nee,
document.
this is as per the regulator framework.
I think so, because most insurance companies are having this proportionate deduction inside their policies. So,
Okay.
yeah. So
Thank
whatever
you.
is the room rent coverage, that is there. That's there in all. And I'll come to that. I'll just hold on. I'll take your questions maybe at the end, but definitely all these insurers are doing that. So now, so basically this claim coverage, what you thought would be 100%, reduced to about 44% just because of these two clauses. Now, there are many other clauses, they could be there, but many of them don't impact the bill, the settlement as much as these few clauses. Okay. So that's why I picked these to explain here. Okay. So before we move forward, the question is proportionate deduction. So what did I tell you? That once whatever is the bill, whatever is the room rent cover, the same percentage is being applied to be covered in all other things. So is this a fair thing, right? That was the next thing that someone like me, when I wanted to help senior citizens, try to understand. So first thing we did obviously was we went to the hospitals, sorry, the insurers, and asked them, why do you do this funny thing called proportionate deduction? Why can't I just pay the difference of the room and that's it? So they told us that if you actually go to most hospitals, most hospitals have differential pricing. Okay. Which means that the same person, like let's take an example of a doctor coming and visiting in the morning and evening. The doctor, when the doctor goes and visits, you know what the visit, he'll just say, did you sleep well? Is the pain better? Are you able to move your leg now? Etc. They'll talk for 5-10 minutes as he does his rounds. And that visit is, if it is in a shared ward, that shared ward is basically where there are 25 other beds. Maybe it'll be 800 rupees for that visit. And then he goes out of the share ward in the same floor and thoda sa wahan pe he goes to another, maybe a deluxe room, a single room, a deluxe room, and there the bill, the same thing that he's doing exactly there will be 3,000 rupees. Okay. And this is the same thing for other things also in terms of the tests that you do, the surgery costs, everything. So what the insurance company is saying is that, hey, you and me, we had a deal when you took the plan. We shook hands and you said that you will take a room of 5,000 rupees. And if you had taken a room of 5,000 rupees, I would have covered everything. Okay. But moment you take a higher room, not only is the room ka difference there, but everything in the bill is becoming costly other than medicines. If that is the case, I am not going to take that hit. That is not fair. So that is why they do this proportionate deduction. Okay. So that is the insurance side of it. So then obviously we went back to the hospitals and tried to ask them, why do you guys have this, differential pricing? Why can't you have the same surgery costs in all the rooms? Why don't you just have different rooms, but the surgery costs, the doctor visits, everything be similar? So that's when they told us that, hey, this is something that is very common in most countries, that for the poorest people, you want to give them medical equality. Okay. So as you know, most poor people in India will not be able to access the best medical care in the best hospitals. So what generally happens, and you know how it is typically in countries, right? It's like a pyramid structure. You have the very few rich, super rich people, then you have some rich people, then you have some mediocre people, and finally you have this large base of people who are the poor. Now, what happens is that imagine something is 100 rupees. Okay, something, just an example. So then a lot of people will basically not be, poor people will not be able to afford that 100 rupees. So what do they do as a response to that? Instead of charging everybody 100 rupees, some people they'll charge 20, some people the hospital will charge 60, some people 100, some people 140, and some people 180. Okay. So net what happens? Poor people are able to access it because there are some options to get it for 20 rupees. But then the hospital also no problem, because when they average out this, they get 100 rupees back. And this is something that is there not in India alone. This is there in pretty much all countries. This thing, especially developing countries. Okay. So this is not something that will change in our lifetime. And this kind of differential pricing will remain. So from that perspective, if you look at what the hospital is saying and we definitely, I don't think anybody will say poor people should not get access to good healthcare. I don't think anybody will say that it is fair on the insurance company to pay all the things if it's higher than this thing. So actually speaking, it's both sides are making valid points. That's our understanding, it's our opinion from this. And but I do agree that insurers can be more transparent about such conditions while selling policies, the agents, etc. Hospitals can also be more transparent at the time when you choose a room, for example. They can tell you that ये आपके room के इसमें नहीं है. And instead of just telling कि लेकिन comfortable है sir, why don't you take it? They can be a little more open and say that sir, ये अगर room के limit से ऊपर अगर जाएगा, then everything will be covered, only proportionately. You lose a lot of money. That I agree that they don't say. But net, I would say the onus is on all of us, the potential buyers, to choose our policies properly. I'll help you. I'll tell you what are some of those things we can do to correct these things, and or to upgrade our policies so that we avoid such unnecessary deductions and it works more in line to what we expect. Okay, so that's unproportionate deduction. So let's just summarize my example. So remember this, what I've written here, partial coverage. Okay, partial coverage is every insurance company's magic bullet. Okay, now insurance companies, many of us may think, make money because of the premiums that they collect from us. Okay, but actually how they make money, how they make the profits is by saving little money in every claim. Okay, so a single insurance company each day all over India will have thousands of claims. If they can cut little here, cut little there, avoid this, avoid that. So that is why they're very happy to sell policies like this, because if they want partial coverage, they try to sell policies with room rent limits. They try to sell policies with co-payment. So the solution is, there are policies out there where there is no room rent capping. Okay, so we need to get policies, even if we pay a little extra, it'll help you immensely the day when you use it. Take policies where there is no capping, nothing at all, no number capping like this, no room category capping, nothing. It should just say simple, no room capping. Because then what happens, if there is no capping in the first place, then whatever room you're given in the hospital, and sometimes the hospital room is not in your choice, right? They will say, ye available nahi hai, ye available nahi hai, ye available nahi hai. You want to go to the cheapest room, you don't want some major comfort, but they will say not available. So if you want to avoid all these things and be more in control of the situation, take a policy. I would humbly request you to please upgrade your policy to one which does not have a room capping, so that whatever room is given to you, 100% will be covered. And if 100% is covered, nothing else will be deducted. Because if this is covered 100%, everything else will be covered 100%. Okay. Second thing is, please do not fall for it when they say, sir, discount milega, co-payment ले लीजिए 10%, क्या फर्क पड़ेगा? बहुत फर्क पड़ेगा. There's a lot of, when you have a bill of 10 lakhs, you have a 20% co-payment, you'll have to pay 2 lakhs from your pocket. So just for saving 1,000, 2,000 rupees, and do not go into any policy. If you have a choice, do not go into it where there's co-payment. There are two more things I want to tell you as a quick thing to avoid this partial coverage problem. One is, please avoid these policies which have disease sublimits. Now, some of you may be confused what that is. So I'll explain. In many policies, let's say you have a 10 lakh cover. The insurance company will say this 10 lakh jo hai is for your overall coverage and health for the year. Okay. But usme bhi, cancer agar aega, I'll give only maximum 2 lakh. Cataract aega, I'll give maximum 20,000, 25,000. Knee replacement hai, I'll give maximum 1 lakh. So these are called disease sublimits. तो एक लिमिट है 10 लाख, लेकिन उसके नीचे सब लिमिट्स है फॉर अलग डिफरेंट डिफरेंट कंडीशंस. वी डोंट वांट पॉलिसीज विद सच सब लिमिट्स, because if I've taken a policy of 10 lakh, I want to use the best treatment possible. Give an example. Recently, my uncle had a pacemaker inserted in for his heart. Pacemaker cup price starts at 95,000 or so in Bangalore. I'm from Bangalore. 95,000, and it goes up to 5 lakh rupees. The best 5 lakh rupees one is some German technology one. I forgot the name of the company. Usme, it's really good. Uska battery will last for 3-4 times more than these Indian ones. And usme Bluetooth technology hai. Any problem, the doctor will get an immediate alert. So immediately you can go to the patient. A lot of advantages. Now, if you take a policy with sublimits, they may say that the pacemaker limit is 1 lakh, right? So then you and your family will either have to compromise and take that, which you know is not the best solution, or you will have to pay from your pocket at that time. So please remember that we should avoid policies. This is the third point, which have disease sublimits. There must be no disease sublimits. And lastly, if the policy does not cover consumable items, we should avoid it. We must take policies which covers consumable items. Now, consumable items, I'll just try to share, are basically this one-time disposable kind of items, okay? Like cotton, syringes, bandages, PPE kits, gloves. These are these are called consumable items, like disposable items, consumable items. You will notice that when if you have gone to visit a friend, when they get discharged, cupboard mein hoga, there'll be a lot of cotton, there'll be a lot of remaining syringes, because these guys, they don't share it between rooms to avoid infection spreading. So they open one, itna sa cotton ke liye, they'll open one big pura bundle. And these things, consumables, are quite expensive in the hospital. So typically, if you look at most bills, between 10 to 15% of the entire bill will be consumable items for a surgery. Hence, taking a policy without that, so let's say if your bill is about 6 lakh rupees, around 1 lakh or so will be consumable items. So please avoid policies where consumable items are not covered, and most policies don't cover consumables. Pay that extra if required to get consumables covered. Okay, so these are four important things, and however sweet the deal is, please be wary of these agents. If you ask them for a deal, they'll give you a deal. So with all these problems, so please avoid them. And this is not the thing. I also like good deals, but this is one thing that please, insurance may don't look for these kind of deals, and be very careful on the fine print. Okay, so this is partial coverage. So this is the way they make money, by cutting. They'll give you some money, but they'll cut, like in our example, and give you partially. Now, there's one more problem, and that is sometimes you may end up getting zero coverage. And I just want to address that also before moving forward. Zero coverage is basically when the insurance company says, hey, I am not going to participate only in this claim. Okay, it's not about any calculation or partial. ये जो claim है, I'm not going to participate. So what are some of the reasons why they could say such a thing? Let's look at that. The first thing is pre-existing diseases. Now I want to tell everybody here, especially the seniors here, right? Pre-existing illnesses, if you have, you need to tell everything 100% honestly. Do not filter it when you take a new policy. Do not think that I think ye important nahi hai, nahi bolenge. Please, you don't be the judge of that. We don't know. Like, let's say you had tuberculosis when you were 10 years old, okay? Which is 50 years back. Doesn't matter. No? Tell that you had tuberculosis. Try to remember that you had tuberculosis, and please tell that to them. Let them decide whether this is important or not important. We should not say. Some people are there, senior citizens I've seen, unfortunately, including in my family. They said, कुछ 10-12 साल पहले I had BP. उसके बाद दवाई लेके it went away after 1-2 months. So I don't have BP now, so I won't do. But see, they are not asking you for what you're having now. They are asking your medical history. So when they ask for the medical history, please remember to tell everything. Don't worry about the premium. See, firstly, many of these things do not affect premium. But even if it affects the premium, it is better to pay, say, 3,000 extra rupees now and get all your bill covered than saving that 3,000 by hiding information and getting zero at that time. You understand what I'm trying to say? So it's just logic, okay? So please do not hide anything. Please do not make any judgment of what is important or not important. Tell everything. Even if you had a fracture 8 years back, tell once I had a fracture and it's okay now. Simple. So take that part of the process quite seriously. I want to also say one thing before I step forward, because this I had a lot of confusion for some of Sukoon members only last time. See, what is important is pre-existing disease. Once you take a plan, after that, whatever illness you get is not a problem. So let's say you take a plan today, and after 6 months you get diabetes. After 3 years you get cholesterol. Uske baad you get arthritis. Uske baad, unfortunately, you get cancer. I mean, just an example. That is all covered by the insurance company. Okay. You don't have to keep calling them and saying, now I got this now. No, their job is that when any illness you get requires you to be hospitalized, they have to pay your bill. You don't have to keep, you don't have to worry also, inform them. And also your premiums do not go up because of that. So India does not have this concept called claim-based thing. Some people think that moment I start claiming, next year mera premium badega. Okay. We do not have that system. And most countries don't have claim-based loading, which means whether you make 5 claims and you suppose you and me are the same 60 years old, we have the same premium this year. Next, but this year I make 5 claims, you make 0 claims. Still next year, both our premium will be the same only. Okay. So please be rest assured that we do not have claim-based loading. Okay. So moving forward, so if you are not honest, and if, and most important also, one thing is, please ensure after you tell your agent or whoever it is, once you get your policy, please make sure this column, this is one of the most important things in the policy document. Okay. This is where a lot of claims can be rejected. Please make sure if you have told the person ki mere paas BP, high BP hai, ya diabetes hai, cholesterol hai, arthritis, thyroid, please make sure there is a column there which says pre-existing diseases, and please make sure it is recorded there that the person, the insurance company, there's no loss of information. Later, 7 years later, if you're going for a claim and if you said high BP to the agent, but they did not put high BP here, they can reject the claim. So please make sure that the pre-existing illness part is definitely recorded. Just telling is not. I've seen a lot of agents, they'll conveniently not put it because they feel that abhi dalega to policy nahi milega or something, but they want the commission, so they nicely ignore it. And unfortunately, the poor senior citizen is at the brunt of it at the end. Okay, so please check that. Second thing
बेटा
is
चाय बन गई
know your waiting period. Waiting periods are very important in insurance, and they are there mainly because not to harass us, they are there because they want fraud to be, they don't want it loopholes in the system. So otherwise, today, if someone tells me, Rahul, you're having a block in your heart, in 1 week, you need to take surgery, I'll say, ma'am, don't write anything today. I'll go and apply for a policy. 2 दिन के बाद मैं आऊंगा, that time you write. So this is a loophole, right? So these kind of things, there are waiting periods. So during the waiting periods, if you don't know them and don't understand them, please ask people what they are. Because if you go during that time, you won't get any, it will not cover at all. It will be a zero coverage. Okay. The third thing, very important for senior citizens, is modern treatments. Now, there is a whole category of treatments called modern treatments. And these are basically things like robotic surgeries, stem cell therapy. Another important one is oral chemotherapy. Now, oral chemotherapy is something my mother also, we when she had cancer, we had helped her. So basically, just to let you know, normal chemotherapy is where you go to the hospital and you sit there and you sit there for a few hours and they will inject chemo into your veins directly, right? But for many cancers, and cancers comes in, no two cancers are the same, they say typically. So many cancers nowadays have the option to take this chemotherapy orally as a tablet sitting at home. Now, most people prefer that either if they are super rich, because it costs a lot, or if they have a good plan, you will definitely take that because one thing, it is convenient for the patient. The second thing is you're not exposing that cancer patient to other illnesses by taking them to a hospital where there is a lot of disease all over. And the third important thing is that the side effects. So you must have noticed people who take chemo, unfortunately, they lose their hair, etc. Right? You would have seen men also lose their hair. They have vomitings and nausea. Then some of them have blisters in the tongue. They lose their appetite. They get rashes on their skin, etc. So all these side effects that come with normal chemotherapy comes down by up to 95% when you take this chemo orally. However, chemotherapy का जो oral chemotherapy का जो tablets होते हैं, they are quite expensive. They're about starts at maybe 50,000 rupees per month. So your policy at the end of the day should cover modern treatments for cases like these. Many policies either do not cover modern treatments or they have a capping for modern treatment. So you may take a 10 lakh cover, but they'll say सिर्फ 10% इसका सिर्फ 10% होगा modern treatments के लिए. All this does not work. And I mean, they're just playing games. Okay, so you should please make sure that you don't have any restrictions on modern, because आज का जो modern treatments है, whatever it is, that going forward, these modern treatments are becoming more and more common. By the time some of you on this call may, I hope you never need to use your policies, but if you use it 5 years, 7 years, 10 years online, these modern treatments will be even more common. Okay, so please make sure that modern treatments are covered in your plan.
Rahul, one
Otherwise,
sec.
it will get,
Yeah,
yeah.
will they term it as modern treatment in the policy?
Yeah, it will be written modern
It
treatment,
will
or
be written there, is it?
yeah, modern treatment. Some people call it also advanced.
Acha. Okay.
But most of them these days, sir, call it modern treatment.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So you have to check that. Then the next thing is any intimation delays. Now, India, unfortunately, I don't say it, probably a lot of fraud. There are a lot of hospitals in maybe tier 2, tier 3 cities, where they'll say, oh, Rahul, आपके पास policy है 10 lakh का, I'm making some bills of 3 lakh. Insurance से मिलके, I'll give you 1 lakh. Okay, you'll be surprised to know that such things happen, but these kind of things happen. So the insurance company has the right, as per the policy, to actually come and visit you in the first 24 hours to make sure that this is not a fraudulent claim. So because of that, even if it's an emergency, you must inform the insurance company always to be safe within 24 hours. Okay. And if it's a planned surgery, please tell them 2 to 3 days before, that is 48 to 72 hours before, so that all your pre-approvals, etc., for the planned surgery can go through smoothly. Okay. Otherwise, if you're too late, they may not cover it. So please, not only you, but inform your family as well, who may be the people taking you to the hospital. And lastly, very important, there's a small list of, it's not small actually. So just like insurance, every insurance company has a network hospital list where, they have cashless. Do you all understand cashless versus reimbursement? I'm not
Yes,
sure if
sir.
you,
Yes, sir.
yeah. So
Yes.
basically, let's say you get a bill of 5 lakhs and the insurance company is covering 4 lakhs. So in a cashless situation, the insurance will directly pay 4 lakhs. You only have to pay the balance 1 lakh and you can get discharged. But in a reimbursement case, you will pay the full 5 lakh. Okay. Then after that, you will come out, give the bills to the insurance company, you will get 4 lakh. The total amount you get is the same in both. Okay. You will get 4 lakh. Same. There's no difference. The only thing is you should have that 4 lakh to pay, 5 lakhs to pay. Not everybody has. Sometimes it's 20 lakhs. Then what do you do, right? So those hospitals, every insurer has a network of hospitals. It's called the cashless network, where this cashless system works. So you usually prefer that. Most people usually prefer that. Okay. So if your hospital, so just like that, there is also one more list, which is very important, called the blacklist. So every insurer, if suppose one hospital A has tried to cheat the insurer B sometime, insurer B will, and if insurer B found out, then insurer B will blacklist hospital A from their services. Nothing to do with cashless reimbursement. They will say, I will not deal with this hospital. So always please make sure, especially now also you can make sure, or at least before you get hospitalized, that whatever those closest hospitals to your house and whichever policy you have, that this is not blacklisted. Okay. So always good to check it just before the hospitalization, so you know the latest information. When you go to the hospital, if your insurance is already cashless over there, means it's not blacklisted. That's fine. But sometimes some people will say, no problem, I'll pay from my pocket, I'll reimburse. And at the end, you will realize that it's a blacklisted hospital, and then you have a problem. So please check that. It may not be a problem for 99% cases, but in 1% cases, it can be a problem. So just be careful. And if it's a problem, it can be a big problem. Other minor reasons are, of course, if you don't put the form information correctly, some missing documents, or even if your policy lapses by even 1 day, you may not get a policy, you won't get a single rupee back. So please always ensure that you renew your policies on time. Okay. So far we have looked at a lot of problems. I've told you that one bullet of theirs is partial coverage, and I told you the clauses to avoid. I've also told you zero coverage, which is their other bullet, but these are not like tricks or anything, but they are there, that it's more from your side to take care of. Okay. So obviously, please do not take policies with those clauses that I said. But there is one more solution that I want to tell you. For those of you who already have a plan with you, right, is this thing, which is our magic bullet, which is called policy porting. Okay. So earlier, when you have one policy, there was no concept of porting. Earlier means before 2020 or so, there was no concept of porting. So you have to take a new policy and stop the old policy. And those days, when you take new policy, आपका waiting period फिर से start होता था. So if you have diabetes and already 3 years waiting period you finished in the old policy, now you are moving to new policy. Again, 3 years waiting period used to start. Okay. But now, because you have policy porting, when you move from one policy to the other, the beautiful thing is that you will be able to move without any waiting period. So whatever waiting period has already been done will be considered in this new policy and subtracted so that you will not have any fresh waiting periods. Okay. So that's a good thing. So that is good for the consumer, good for all people who want to be insured, that if I notice a problem with my plan, I can go and correct it at any point of time. Usually only one thing to remember is you can only port your plan 30 to 45 days before the expiry of your current plan. So today, if your plan is ending in December, we cannot do anything. We'll have to wait till November and then we'll have to port it. Got it? 30 to 45 days before is when the window opens for porting, and that's a IRDA rule. Okay. And you may want to port it for better features, better pricing, family structure changes. Maybe you had a bad experience with this current guy, etc. But please remember, whatever you do, even if today you end up correcting your policy, or if you have the best policy in the whole country, every 3 to 4 years, please review your plan and make sure that it is still up to the mark. Most senior citizens I've seen, they have taken a policy 20 years back, right? In 2005, 2003, and they keep renewing the plan. It is like me taking an Airtel connection in 2003 and having the same connection. I will not have data today, right? Those days only phone calls were there, right? And messages. There was no internet or anything. It's almost like that, right? Something so basic. Sometimes these policies miss. I'm like, oh my God, sir, you don't have this also. You don't even have a free medical checkup. Free medical checkup is one of the most basic things that all insurance companies are giving today. Annual checkup. Now, many plans of 2005 and all, they don't have all this. So you end up paying 5,000 extra every year for your medical checkup, right? These are just an example. There are much more other critical points, but I just wanted to share that. Okay. So please remember, this is the first magic bullet that we have. The second thing is, you may say, Rahul, thank you for this session, very nice and all that. Maybe you may say, and so I want to correct my policy, or some of you may say, oh, I didn't know it is so expensive. I want to take a new plan. So now the question is, where should we buy this plan from? This is a question. Should we buy it directly from the insurance company? Like, should I go to, let's say, Aditya Birla website and buy it directly? Or second option, should I go to an aggregator like Policy Bazaar online again and look at compare different options and buy it? Or third, should I go to some agent, individual agent, maybe my friend's agent or somebody I know, maybe my family member, and buy it? Or should I go to a corporate intermediary? So the last two are almost same, just that one is an individual intermediary and one is a corporate intermediary. Okay. So we looked at this, we looked at a lot of data, we tried to understand the situation. Now, before I give the answer to this question, I just want to give one example. Okay. Insurance, unfortunately, health insurance particularly, has a lot of gray areas. Okay. Okay. So when the time of the claim comes, there are certain things that are black and white, no problem. Like certain things are very clear. Ye hai, ye nahi hai. But there are certain things in gray. So I'll give you an example, right? So I don't know if most of you know, but dental is not covered in any insurance plan in India, like your root canal treatment, okay, your decayed tooth, all that. Dental is not covered, but accidents are covered, okay, for health insurance. So now the question is, if I had an accident tomorrow and I broke my jaw and I need dental reconstruction surgery, will it be covered? Is the question. Any guesses?
Yes, it will be covered, sir, because it is accident.
Sure. So a person here from the industry who knows it is obviously he knows it. But for most people, at least I did not know this, that it will be covered. But the first thing that many insurance companies do is first they take advantage of our ignorance, and they come and they will say first that it's not covered. So for example, if it's a 5 lakh, I've seen these cases because I'm helping people fight some of these cases. So there's a 5 lakh cover and the entire bill, the 5 lakh bill, and the insurance company first gives only 2.5 lakhs. And then when you go and ask them, why did you cut 2.5 lakhs? They'll say, sir, didn't you read your policy? Dental is not covered. So your reconstruction surgery is not covered. Please look at page number 8.16.3. So out of 10 people that go to the insurance company like this, 6 people will read that and say, oh, dental is not covered. I didn't know. And they'll walk away. So now the insurance company has saved that money. All those 6 people ka 2.5 lakh save. Okay. I'm just giving an example. Out of the remaining 4 people, some people will say, but ye to accident hai, can't you do something? This is not fair and all that. Then they'll say, sir, don't worry. I'll go and speak to my team, and they'll come back and say, sir, I got 1 more lakh. Okay, out of the 2.5 lakh. And then some of these people will be happy there also. And then they may say, thank God I called them and, I got 1 more lakh, right? This is how we feel at that time. But actually speaking, you should get the entire 2.5 lakhs. So there'll only be this one person out of 10 or 20 people who will actually know the rules. So there are rules of insurance, and there are some postulates of insurance, and in that it says accidents is one of the top rules. Accidents is an act of God. Okay. So accidents take precedence over everything. So you are not able to, nobody intentionally goes and falls into an accident to purposely get a bill and all that. That's the principle. Okay. So, but who knows these postulates? We all don't know these postulates. It's very difficult. So that is why, from that perspective, it is always better to take an insurance policy, in my opinion, from one of these two as opposed to these two. Because here you do not have anybody to help you with the gray areas, because you will be handling the entire claim directly with the insurance company. Okay. Here also with the aggregators, you'll talk to the aggregator, but the aggregator generally likes to sell new policies because that's where they get higher commissions, not for you to when you renew policies. So usually their focus is on getting new business. These two generally have better chances of helping you with these gray areas. In this, if you know somebody close who will go beyond the call of duty to help you, definitely an individual intermediary is very good. No problem. If you know somebody. For most people, they don't. And that is why I feel that corporate intermediary, the only difference between these two is the individual may be selling, for example, say HDFC, right? One individual agent will be selling 25 policies of HDFC. Whereas a corporate intermediary, a company may be selling 5,000 policies of HDFC in a month. The other person is selling 25 policies of HDFC. So when this gray area negotiation and trying to work this out comes, there's a little more negotiation power for the person selling more. That's all. Okay. But otherwise, if you look at it, if you know somebody who will go beyond the call of duty and is very sincere, then it's okay perfectly. But most important is have an intermediary. Do not take policies directly, because that is where you can really find, sometimes you can be really surprised by what happens due to these gray areas. Okay. So claim support is very important. All right. A small word about corporate plans. I don't know if some of you are with your kids' corporate plans. They are not bad. They're cost effective, less restrictive, and you get good support typically from the HR person of your kids' company. The only problem is it is usually having low coverage, and it can be withdrawn anytime as a perk. There's no guarantee that this will be their lifetime in that company. Your kid may change jobs and your kid may have international moves. All these cases, you will not have the corporate cover. So it is highly, I would say, recommended that you take, even if you have a policy, please take a retail plan as well in addition to that, because what many people don't know is that multiple policies are actually possible. You can use multiple policies for the same claim. Okay. You can use your corporate plan. Uske upar you can use a separate plan also. Whatever the corporate is not covering, this plan will cover, etc. So people think I can only choose one. That's absolutely false. I just want to tell everybody. Okay. So that's why there is no loss in it. It is very important to do this. Okay. So please make sure that even if you're with a corporate plan, don't think that that is the most comfortable scenario. It's usually 2, 3, or maximum 5 lakhs. 5 lakhs also not that many companies. And these days you need around 10 to 15 lakhs cover as a senior citizen. That's what the data will show you. So it's grossly undercovered. Okay, so but then it's not possible for all companies to pay that much. Premium goes very high, so companies are not able to afford that much. Okay,
Rahul, one
okay,
sec. This when you say corporate, is it a group
yeah,
insurance? Because we are all
yeah,
individual, but how will it work
yeah.
for an
No,
individual as well?
right. So there are two types of insurance plans. One is retail plans. That is when you go and buy from HDFC or ICICI or Care Health or Aditya Birla Star Health. All this is called retail plans. In addition to the retail plan, there is another concept called group insurance. Okay, where they'll take a group of people together
Yeah.
and insure all of them in one shot. So insurance companies like this because they get a big volume business, right? Like imagine TCS. If TCS tomorrow goes and gives all their employees,
Point is that we are all, since we are all retired, we are not working. So, as an individual, what would you suggest?
I understand, but your many senior citizens are in their children's corporate plan. Their
Okay.
children are working, and their
Yeah.
children's companies say, "Here's some cover for your parents. You can include your parents in this," and many people think that is enough. So my point was that that is not enough. So even if your children have a cover for you through their company,
Have an
please
additional plan.
keep. Yes, yes, you must have one because it is not guaranteed that that plan will
Right.
remain. And by the time that goes away, you may have some other illness which
Correct.
causes you not to get a policy. That was the point, sir.
Okay. Fine.
Okay. Right?
Rahul, can I have ask a quick question there regarding personal and group insurance?
Sure. Please
Yeah,
ask.
so I can use these two covers serially, right? So I use the corporate. Once it gets exhausted, I can switch. I can activate the personal insurance plan, right? Just in case my coverage requires these two. So we can work
Yes.
these two serially, right?
Yes. In fact, you said once corporate gets exhausted, it doesn't have to get exhausted also. So, for example, let's say your corporate plan is 5 lakh rupees. Okay. And let's say the bill comes to 3 lakh rupees. But because the corporate plan also has some restrictions, let's say you got only 2 lakhs out of the 3 lakhs. Okay.
No, I'm making it simple. For example, the reimbursement amount is say 10 lakhs.
Yeah.
So just to make the math simple, so that the philosophy is understood. So suppose it is 10 lakhs, corporate gives me a cover of say 5 lakhs. So I can next activate my personal insurance, right? So that the 5 lakh remainder is offloaded to my personal insurance plan. This can
Typically,
be
what
done,
you
right? Is it allowed?
yes, yes, it's allowed. Not just with
Oh,
two
okay.
policies, even with 3 plans.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to know that. And the other thing in
The
group
only
insurance is
the
the
only thing to
aggregation.
sorry, just 1 second.
Yeah, yeah.
Just the only thing I want to let you know is you cannot give both those policies in the hospital at the same time. You have to choose
Okay.
one of those
Yeah, yeah.
policies.
That sounds logical. I mean, that would be
Yeah.
awkward
And
as well.
then no, I just want to tell it for everyone else
Okay.
also, right? That you'll give your corporate or your in retail or whatever, then it'll be settled. Whatever is remaining, you pay from your pocket. Then you'll come out, and then the second policy you will use reimbursement to get the money back. Okay, that's how it is.
Okay,
That's
so
how
it's cashless plus reimbursable. It is never two
yes.
cashless
Usually,
serially. No.
no,
Okay.
no.
Okay. Yeah, that is the key thing I wanted to understand. In group insurance, the aggregation is only for the purpose of business from the health insurance provider. The insurance coverage is unique for every member in that group insurance scheme, correct? So, for example,
Not
if it is say 5 lakh per, just a moment, I need to just check the phone.
so. Can I request you to just let's do this at the end? I'm almost at the end of my session. So can we just take this at the end? I don't know. I can't hear you, but I'm just going to
No, no,
proceed.
sorry. I had to cut off a phone call. No,
Yeah.
in group
I
insurance.
will answer this question,
Okay.
Abhijit, just at the end. Okay, when
Okay.
we do
Fair,
that.
fair, fair.
Just give me 2 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Now, so now that you know all this, I'm just summarizing. So this is what we all want, right? I hope whatever is our hospital bill, we are all hoping that the settlement is the same. Okay. This is what we want. What actually happens sometimes is the first step is the restrictions in the policy. If you take a bad policy or a not so good policy with many restrictions, then this is your upper limit that you will get. So the first step is we need to buy a plan, which you need to choose the policy correctly. If you don't choose the policy correctly, this first step itself, you'll be in trouble. That is the upper limit of what you can get because of the restrictions will pull down the settlement amount. Okay. And what do I mean by choosing correctly? First thing is, please, I'm just requesting, don't look for deals here. I know money is important, but unless you're really, really cash strapped, please don't look for deals here. If you look for deals, these agents and all these sellers will get you a deal, but you saw what those deals can be like. Okay. The second thing is, please ensure it's customized. Sometimes they give senior citizens plans which you don't, or with features you don't need, like maternity, for example. I've seen multiple people with maternity policies, like maternity, IVF coverage, etc. I don't think that's required. And seniors say, free mein aa raha hai, what's the problem? Nothing is free. Everything is included in the premium, right? Somewhere in that calculation, they have considered maternity, they have considered, so nothing is free. If you don't believe in Ayurveda, don't take a policy which covers Ayush and Ayurveda, right? Why you want it? You're never going to use it. So like this, there are a few things that you need to be careful about. Same, so don't get wasteful features. Make sure that it is related to what you want, okay, as customized as possible. The second thing that is there that will bring this down are what I discussed with you, those gray areas. So even after you get the best policy, they will still try to pull you down at that time by saying a few things. And insurance companies can keep saying we don't do it, but everyone knows that they do it. The only solution there is to have a very good intermediary with you. Please source your policy smartly through a company that will do all this work with you. Ideally, we don't want to talk to the insurance companies at that time. We only want to talk to our intermediary, and the intermediary, like a lawyer. The intermediary should be like a lawyer who knows these policies, wordings, as well as those insurance companies, and who is more on our side than someone else's side. And that is the best way to do this. The other last thing is to also review company statistics. Please, there are a lot of statistics that come out. A good intermediary there also can help you. What is the claim settlement ratio? What is the incurred claim ratio? What is the average, excuse me, turnaround time, etc. So these are also some things that you should keep in mind, and a good intermediary can help you. Okay. So, and lastly, again, because very important, even if you correct it today, even if you have the best plan today, please review periodically once in 3 to 4 years. So what now? First thing is, please I would request everyone, I think most of you are already quite serious about this topic, but if you do not have a policy, please get one. The costs are no longer what you think they are. If you have a policy, please get it reviewed for many of these clauses. This is only some clauses that I told. There are several hidden clauses of different shapes and sizes in many of these policies, and we have looked at about 75 policies and reviewed them to actually come to a presentation like this. Okay, so if you need some help, the third thing is always use an advisor. Do not buy plans directly from companies is my advice, because you will not have that support at that time when you require someone to explain things to you, help you if the insurance companies become unreasonable. The next thing is you need to know your policy. Ignorance is not bliss over here. You need to really understand at least the basics, at least what I've said in this session, right? Whether you have a room rent capping, even if you can't afford, let's say you can't afford one which is having no room capping, no problem. At least you should understand कि मेरे इसमें capping है, and when I go 5 lakh bill का मेरे को 3 lakh आएगा because मेरे पास ये capping wapping है. At least that much we should know mota the calculation, so that no one can cheat you. And lastly, I want to just say that this is only one part of emergency preparation. Okay, having a policy. Please, once many of you, especially the men, I would like to say, please don't keep these policies yourself. Please share it with your spouse. If you're the one usually sponsoring the policy, please share it with a neighbor. Please share it with your children. Many times you may be the one that is unconscious, and someone else is taking. The first question that the hospital will ask is insurance hai, and if your spouse doesn't know, or if you don't know the policy number, etc., that's a problem. Please discuss this in the family. Ki emergency में कहाँ जाना है, which hospital. Every minute will be precious in that moment. Okay, every minute. So कौन सा doctor है, who's the closest doctor that can come and give CPR or just help us till the ambulance comes. These are some things that you should ideally paste it on your say fridge. Okay, so that everyone knows कि क्या number है, ambulance का number क्या है, doctor closest कौन है, which hospital are we going. No discussion, यहाँ लेना है, वहाँ लेना है, nursing home में जाना है, hospital. Please discuss all this, because anytime anything can happen, and we have seen this. So this is